We are now live. Madam Chair, please call the meeting to order.
Okay, I notice everyone is here. I call this meeting of the Arapahoe County Planning Commission of September 15th, 2020 to order, and we will now call the roll.
Chair Rick.
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Here.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Present.
Commissioner Miller. No response from Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Saul.
Here.
Commissioner Save.
Here.
Commissioner Woolman.
Here.
Did Mr. Commissioner Miller respond?
I am here. I just had it on mute.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Good evening, Commissioners, staff, citizens, and guests. I am Jason Reynolds with Arapahoe County Planning, and I will be serving as the moderator for this evening's online meeting of the Planning Commission. We are streaming this meeting on our website, arapahoegov.com, and this agenda will be handled in the same way it would be handled for a regular in-person meeting. You may stream the meeting on our website or call in to participate. Please note that the website broadcast is delayed by 20 to 30 seconds. So if you would like to speak regarding any public hearing items, please use the call-in number. And to participate live via phone, call 719-569-5048. And when prompted, enter the conference ID, which is 496-032-816, followed by the pound sign. All presentation PowerPoints are available on our website, so even if you participate by telephone, you can still download the PowerPoints and follow along with the presenters. Chair Rick, please proceed with the approval of the minutes.
Okay, tonight we have one set of minutes to approve from our September 1st, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. If there are any changes to the minutes, please include those changes in your motion, and I will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Wallman. I move to approve the minutes from September 1st with one correction. Page 3, paragraph 3 of the minutes, last sentence in that paragraph should read, he noted that Pure Cycle had a very rich history with the project.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Woolman with one correction on page 3 and paragraph 3 as noted. Is there a second to the motion?
Commissioner Brockelman seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockelman. The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Brockelman. Are there any discussion? Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Aye.
Commissioner Save.
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The minutes are approved on a vote of 7-0. Next section of tonight's meeting is the public hearings, and the public is invited to participate in the public hearings. If you are interested in case LE 20-002, which is a location and extent for the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds and Regional Park, that item will be scheduled for a future Planning Commission agenda, and we cannot take any testimony tonight due to noticing issues. If you would like to comment on the remaining public hearing items, please call 719-569-5048, and when prompted, enter the conference ID, which is 496-032-816, followed by the pound sign. I will call on individual telephone numbers after the Planning Commission chair opens the public hearing, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission on the topic after the staff presentation. Some of the public hearing items are quasi-judicial in nature. In order to afford all parties due process under law, the Planning Commission members must be fair and impartial in deciding whether those applications should be approved with conditions, or denied. In making that determination, each member of the Planning Commission must consider the record, which includes the staff recommendation, the applicant presentation, public comment presented during the hearing, and other public comments offered before or during the hearing. Under law, Planning Commission must evaluate the proposals based entirely upon the record and the criteria established under the Land Development Code. Those criteria are highlighted in the staff report. It is important that each Planning Commission member remain objective and capable of considering information offered into the record during this hearing. Does any Planning Commission member believe that he or she is incapable of evaluating and voting on the application in an unbiased and objective manner, believe that they may have a conflict of interest, or have any other matter that he or she would like to disclose prior to proceeding with the public hearing for any of the public hearing items on tonight's agenda?
I have something to disclose. Our home is immediately adjacent to the existing gas easement and therefore the existing gas line, but I know I can be objective regarding all issues that come up tonight and just wanted you to know.
Right. Thank you. And does the county attorney's office have anything to add on that?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the disclosure, Madam Chair. I think it's appropriate for you to, you can vote on this and participate in this matter. This is not a conflict of interest, which would require your recusal.
Thank you. I will turn this over to the chair.
Okay, we have 2 items to consider. We have 2 public hearing items, and we will first consider now a combined public hearing for both of those items, case numbers LE 20-001 and ASI 20-001. The Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project location and extent and 1041 application. Kat Hammer with Arapahoe County Planning as our staff presenter. Mrs. Hammer, please begin your presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioner. Kat Hammer with the Arapahoe County Planning Division. I am sharing my screen right now. On the screen, you should see an introductory slide that includes both of the case numbers as well as the name of those projects. These projects have been submitted by Public Service Company of Colorado. On page 2, you will see a project overview. Public Service Company of Colorado is doing business as Xcel Energy, and they are requesting approval of an application for a 1041 permit, regulations governing areas and activities of state interest, and an accompanying location and extent. The applicant is proposing to construct, operate, and maintain approximately 4 miles of a 20-inch diameter steel natural gas transmission pipeline within unincorporated Arapahoe County. The 1041 application reviews the environmental and overall impacts of the project, while the location and extent provides the county with a site plan and specific location of the project.
Hey, Kat, pardon me. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to confirm jurisdiction and noticing before we get too far into the case.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I forgot that, so I apologize. But I want to let the public as well as the planning commissioners know that both of these agenda items have been properly noticed, and the Planning Commission has jurisdiction to proceed with recommendation on the 1041 application and a motion for the LME application. Thank you, Bob.
Yes, and I will confirm that as well. Thank you.
Moving forward, if the entire project is approved, the proposed pipeline will traverse public and private lands within the jurisdictions of the City and County of Denver, City of Aurora, unincorporated Arapahoe County, City of Greenwood Village, City of Centennial, Cherry Creek State Park, as well as the United States Army Corps of Engineers. On page 3, or on slide 3, titled Proposal Vicinity Map, you will see a graphic of the proposed pipeline location located within Arapahoe County is highlighted, and the locations outside of unincorporated Arapahoe County are shown in red. The proposed natural gas pipeline is located within the western portion of Cherry Creek State Park and travels north to the west side of Cherry Creek Reservoir. The natural gas transmission pipeline is proposed to begin at an existing regulator station and would end at an existing valve set near located within the city and county of Denver. The portion of the pipeline located in unincorporated Arapahoe County begins near the intersection of South Peoria Street and East Orchard Road. It ends at the intersection of South Dayton and South Dam Road, as highlighted in the picture on slide 3. Moving on to slide 4, which is titled Proposal Adjacent Zoning Map, you'll see a picture of the current zoning that is in place for areas surrounding the proposed pipeline location. The corridor, so the property surrounding the corridor is identified as USA since it is owned by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and that property is managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Residentially zoned property is located to the west of the corridor near the intersection of South Peoria and Cherry Creek Drive, and this area is zoned R4. As you can see that I'm hovering over that on the map on the map on slide 3. And then there is also residential property immediately adjacent to East Bellevue right here, as you can see. And that adjacent property is actually located within the jurisdiction of Greenwood Village, but the property just south of that is located within unincorporated Arapahoe County and is zoned residential planned unit development. The adjacent subdivisions include Cherry Creek Vista and the hills at Cherry Creek. The majority of the land adjacent to the corridor is parkland that consists of a range of vegetation from short shrubbery grasslands to bare prairie dog lands to wetlands and creeks. Most of the area adjacent to the corridor is the residential area, pardon me, adjacent to the corridor, it consists primarily of single family homes. Moving on to slide 5 of my presentation titled Background Project Details. The proposed pipeline corridor lies entirely within the land that is identified on Arapahoe County zoning as United States of America, as previously mentioned. The pipeline corridor is currently owned by the United States Army Corps of Engineers and is managed by CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and is currently used as open space. Moving on to slide 6, which is titled Proposal Project Detail. The Southeast Denver metro area is currently served by a 20-inch diameter natural gas pipeline. PSCO wishes to remove the existing pipeline and replace the pipeline in a new location to ensure safety and reliability of its gas delivery system and ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Most of the length of the pipeline cannot be constructed in the existing easement because, as the applicant has stated, over the last 60 years, urban development and population density has significantly increased around the existing pipeline corridor. On slide 7, titled Proposal Alternative Route Analysis, I wanted to mention that the applicant has analyzed 7 different alternative routes before determining this as the proposed route. They have analyzed these different alternatives to ensure that minimal disturbance to the existing environment occurs as during construction and after construction. The applicant has indicated that the proposed route minimizes temporary construction impacts along streets in residential and commercial areas while best meeting landowners' concerns, minimizing environmental impacts, and achieving project goals. Moving on to slide 8, titled Proposal Alternative Route Analysis, you will see a graphic that depicts the proposed route as well as the 7 alternative routes that were, or the 6 alternative routes that were looked at, and in dark blue you will see the existing pipeline corridor route. On slide 9, titled Proposal Proposed Route, is a graphic of the proposed route with without showing any of the other alternative routes, but indicating where jurisdiction is for the length of the proposed corridor. On slide 10, titled Proposal Project Details, this proposal does include one above ground structure in unincorporated Arapahoe County, which will be located near the intersection of South Peoria Street and the Vista Trail. I will show you that a representative photo on the next slide of what that above ground structure will look like. The Sept footprint is approximately 50 by 50 feet and will include a chain link fence and possibly barbed wire if acceptable by the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the Colorado State Parks and Wildlife. This proposal does include a remote controlled valve, also known as a RCV, which is proposed to isolate this pipeline in case of any emergency. On slide 11, titled Proposal Project Detail, you will see a graphic of a representative type of the valve set that will be the only above ground structure located within unincorporated Arapahoe County if this project is approved. Arapahoe County does permit barbed wire fencing for these types of facilities. So if the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Colorado Parks and Wildlife see that fit, Arapahoe County does not have any objection to allowing barbed wire fence. On slide 12, titled Public Outreach, this is explaining the outreach that Xcel Energy has conducted over the last few years. Xcel Energy held an open house on November 19th of 2019 to introduce the project as well as gather feedback on the proposed route from residents and stakeholders in Greenwood Village as well as unincorporated Arapahoe County. It was noticed in the newspaper, and mailing notice was also sent to almost 600 property owners within that area. According to the applicant, most of the attendees were concerned about the safety of the pipeline, how close the line would be to their residents, whether installation of the pipeline would impact their property values, and the construction process. Hi. The applicant also held numerous one-on-one meetings with different jurisdictions that the pipeline is proposed to traverse. On slide 13, titled Discussion Comprehensive Plan, there are 5 strategies that staff analyzed and looked at the plan set and feel that the application is in conformance with the following goals and policies outlined in the comprehensive plan. This area is designated as open space in the comprehensive plan, and more details about how this application meets the criteria, goals, and policy identified in the comprehensive plan can be found in the staff report. On slide 14 of my presentation, titled Discussion Regulatory Review of the LNE, the LDC requires that a location and extent should not be approved unless it meets 2 specific approval criteria. One being that no park, road, public way, ground, or space, no building or structure, and no major facility of a public utility shall be constructed or authorized in the unincorporated areas of Arapahoe County unless and until the proposed location and extent therefore thereof has been submitted to and approved by the Arapahoe County Planning Commission. The other criteria exempts routine extensions of public utility lines and minor modifications to existing utility lines and or facilities not be subject to this procedure, which does not apply in this case as it is not a routine extension or minor modification. On slide 15, titled Discussion, Regulatory Review 1041. The 1041 approval criteria for a major facility of a public utility shall comply with the criteria set forth in the 1041 regulations, Part B, Section A and C, along with Appendix A. The 1041 criteria can be found on our website if anybody's interested in a thorough review and analysis of the approval criteria for a 1041 is also included in the staff report for your reference. Staff feels the applicant has complied with all submittal requirements and complies with the 21 general criteria as stated in the staff report. Moving on to slide 16, titled Outside Referral. Staff sent two rounds of referral packets via email to a number of different agencies that would have would be interested in this type of development.
Ms. Hammer, I'm just going to pause you there. We're getting a lot of background noise, so I'm going to mute everyone, and you'll have to unmute yourself to continue presenting. All right. Kat, you may unmute yourself to continue.
Okay, moving forward on the outside referral slide number 16, staff is suggesting two conditions of approval to address outside referral agency comments that we feel have not yet been addressed. One is in regard to the Mile High Flood District, and the other condition of approval is in regard to Tri-County Health Department and permitting process. Staff believes that all other outside referral agency comments have been addressed at this time for both the 1041 application as well as the location and extent application. Moving on to slide 17, titled Staff Findings and Recommendation for the L&E. Staff has reviewed the plan, supporting documentation, referral comments, and citizen input in response to this application. And based on the review of applicable policies, goals, and the comprehensive plan set forth in the comprehensive plan, review of the development regulations, and analysis of referral comments, staff has two findings to include, and staff believes that the proposed location and extent is in conformance with the overall goals and intent of the Arapahoe County Comprehensive Plan, and it provides for development of public facilities and services with Arapahoe County. The other finding being that the proposed application complies with the review and approval criteria for a location and extent application per section 5-7.3 of the Land Development Code. Staff is recommending approval of the location and extent, also known as LE 20-001 Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project, and is subject to conditions that you will see on later slides. Moving on to slide 18, titled Staff Findings and Recommendation for the 1041 permit. Staff has also reviewed these plans, the documentation, referral comments, and citizen input as received to this date, and based on the review of applicable policies and goals set forth in the comprehensive plan, review of the development regulations, and analysis of referral comments, staff also has two findings that are in support for a recommendation for case number ASI 20-001 Southeast Metro Natural Gas Pipeline 1041 permit application subject to conditions found in your staff report. On slide 19, titled Draft Motions for the L&E Approval, you will see the 5 stated conditions that staff is proposing for a positive or for recommendation for approval. As noted earlier, condition number 3 is addressing Mile High Flood District referral comments, and condition number 4 is addressing Tri-County Health referral comments. On slide 20, titled Draft Motions for the 1041 approval, you will see 4 conditions of approval that staff are suggesting for a positive recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners is scheduled to hear the 1041 application at a public hearing on October 13th to begin at 9:30 a.m. And my last slide that I just moved to, slide 20, addresses any questions that the planning commissioners might have. I stand for questions, and the applicant has also prepared a PowerPoint, and I will introduce the applicant if the planning commission has no further questions for staff. Mind you, everybody is muted, so if you're speaking right now, we are not hearing anybody right now.
Good point. Does anybody have any questions for Kat at this point? Otherwise, we will ask the applicant to begin. Are there any questions from the Planning Commission?
I have none.
Turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, I will introduce Kelly Bradley, who is the project manager with Xcel Energy. I will be running her PowerPoint for the live stream as well as for the planning commissioners. Kelly, please begin your presentation. If you are calling Kelly, you will need to press, I believe it's *3 to unmute.
*6 to unmute yourself if you're calling. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Kat. So as Kat mentioned, my name is Kelly Bradley. I'm the project manager for Xcel Energy. There are several other project team members with me on this call this evening. A few members that you may hear from are Tom Henley, our community and local government representative, Adam Pena, land acquisition and permitting agent, Esma Manana, our Xcel internal engineer, Brian Thomason, engineering consultant to Xcel, John McDonald with EPG, who is our environmental and permitting consultant, Vanessa Yohe, also with EPG, who is our public outreach specialist, Matt Kaczynski, who is our consultant, our environmental consultant on this project, as well as David Kuzman from our legal department. So as Kat mentioned, this is the Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project. And I will move down to slide 2, titled Presentation Overview. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to discuss the project need, our route alternative analysis, proposed route, permitting and agency consultations that have been completed, our project schedule, various items that can be expected during construction, safety measures that we take at Xcel Energy, our public outreach plans, as well as our qualifications. We can jump down to the next slide, slide 3, titled Project Need. So as Kat mentioned, Xcel Energy is installing approximately 5.2 miles of 20-inch diameter high-pressure steel natural gas line to replace existing natural gas line in Arapahoe and Denver counties. Approximately 3.3 miles are within unincorporated Arapahoe County, and 1.9 of those miles are within the city and county of Denver. This 20-inch pipeline helps to provide natural gas to serve the Southeast Metro, Denver metro area. The project proposes to replace the existing pipeline with a new pipeline between existing regulator station in the city of Centennial, East Cayley Avenue, and South Troy Circle, and an existing valve set in the city and county of Denver near South Yosemite and East Hampton Avenue. This replacement pipeline will connect the same endpoints as the pipeline currently in service, just in a different location. The existing pipeline serving this area was installed in the 1950s and does not conform to record-keeping regulations implemented by the Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration in October of 2019. This new replacement will comply with all PHMSA regulations. You can go to the next slide, slide 4, which is the route alternatives analysis. The existing pipeline is shown on the map in dark blue. It can be kind of hard to see through there. There's a lot going on. But when this was originally first installed, there were not many houses in the area. So since the original installation, there's been a significant amount of infrastructure buildup in the current route alignment, and in some instances has even encroached within our existing easement, leaving us with no room to install the new pipeline adjacent to the existing. The study area, which is indicated by the red border, defines the area in which the route needs to be located to adequately meet the project purpose and need and serve the existing natural gas system. When making route determinations, we aim to find opportunities that will meet the engineering requirements of the project while also reducing impacts to any extent feasible. So we looked at 7 route alternatives and evaluated them based on a comparative metrics, including existing infrastructure in the area, construction logistics, land use, environmental factors, how we may impact the community, the existing natural gas system, land use approval, as well as engineering, including installation methods, safety, and separation from other utilities. Those are just a few of the items that we looked at. And you can jump down to slide 5, titled Proposed Route. So after analysis, we did determine that the best route in the study area that met the construction requirements while causing the least public disruption, that is shown in the light blue there. The dark blue is the current existing pipeline. So we do start up near, going from north to south, up near Hampton and Yosemite, work our way across I-225 through Cherry Creek State Park and exit at our southern tie-in location. You can go to slide 6, titled Permitting and Agency Consultation. So Xcel Energy does comply with agency and jurisdictional requirements. We consult with agencies and jurisdictions that oversee our project and submit permit applications that identify and minimize potential environmental and wildlife impacts. We have consulted with at least 14 public agencies ranging from federal to local to plan and seek permitting approval for the Southeast Metro project. On this slide, you can see all of the permitting and agency consultations that we've completed or are working through, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, CDPHE, CDOT, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Arapahoe County, City and County of Denver, RTD, City of Aurora, City of Centennial, Greenwood Village, Cherry Creek School District, Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority, and the Southeast Metro Stormwater Authority. As our project continues, we plan to keep our agency and jurisdictional partners informed of the project status. We'll move on to the next slide, slide 7, titled Schedule. So this project initially began planning back in 2018. Between 2018 and present, we've been permitting and design. Back in July of 2020, we did begin construction where we were permitted in Aurora, Centennial, Denver, and Greenwood Village. The plan for this project is to be completed August 2021. Some restoration will continue beyond 2021, and we are committed to restoring disturbed areas to pre-construction conditions. Please note that these construction schedules are subject to change depending on permitting. Obviously, is a big one here. You can move on to the next slide, slide 8, which is what to expect during construction. So during construction, stakeholders may observe the following traffic control measures, including flaggers as needed, delays to navigate through the work area, potential changes to business and resident access, noise during construction, material deliveries, construction equipment. We do recognize the inconvenience related to our construction, and we'll take any measures where feasible to reduce those inconveniences. And jump down to slide 9. This is titled Safety Measures. Public safety is at the foundation of all we do. The safety of the public around the natural gas system influences every decision we make. We take a proactive approach to public safety by implementing safety measures before, during, and after construction. So during construction and installation of the natural gas pipeline, we will be verifying the integrity of the natural gas pipeline through X-ray of all welds by an independent third-party contractor. During construction, we will also implement a corrosion prevention system designed to eliminate any metal loss during the life of a natural gas pipeline. Once the natural gas pipeline has been installed and prior to putting it into service, we will complete a pressure test using water to verify the pipeline's integrity. This pressure test will be 1.5 times the maximum operation pressure of this to help verify the integrity of the installation. After the pipeline is in service and flowing with natural gas, we will do an internal inspection of the natural gas pipeline to be completed with state-of-the-art equipment which can detect any defects to the pipeline. To the right on the PowerPoint, you will see a picture of the equipment. This is called a PIG, which will be used to complete the inline inspection. This is sent through the inside of the pipeline to take readings. During the lifetime of the natural gas pipeline, we will be performing annual leak surveys. We will be completing internal inspection of the natural gas pipelines at least every 7 years with the inline inspection technology that is also seen on the PowerPoint. We do have continuous remote monitoring of the natural gas pipeline and all facility operations by Xcel Energy staff gas control centers. We do have, as Kat mentioned, we are installing the remote control valves in case of emergency, and they can be shut off remotely, and someone is monitoring this 24/7. We are committed to providing immediate responses to any identified anomalies or hazardous leaks. And in addition to that, Xcel Energy is an industry leader in damage prevention. Xcel Energy's damage prevention program, which works to prevent excavators from damaging our gas system, is in the top quartile of the utility industry. Xcel is an active member of Colorado 811 and is a founding member of the Gold Shovel Standard. We also perform extensive outreach to educate the excavating community in safe digging practices to ensure our pipelines remain safe. And you can go to slide 10, titled Public Outreach. So we are committed to providing timely project information to elected officials, government agencies, businesses, property owners, residents, schools. We're notifying local jurisdictions, nearby residences, businesses before construction starts. Some of the methods include postcards, emails, in-person visits as needed, informational postcards, and we do have a dedicated website, email address, information line, and email subscriber list. Those emails are sent every 2 weeks throughout the project, just to keep all of our key stakeholders and elected officials up to speed on what we're doing in the project as it progresses. And you can move down to slide 11, titled Public Service Company Xcel Energy Qualifications. Xcel has a successful track record of installing and operating pipelines throughout Colorado. This will really allow our team to continue to provide, this project will allow our team to continue to provide reliable natural gas service to our customers, excuse me. And that's really our goal here. We manage and operate approximately 2,000 miles of high pressure natural gas pipeline throughout Colorado and serve more than 1.4 million natural gas customers in the state. And you can move down to slide 12. At this time, I wanted to address a few questions and a few of the conditions that Kat had mentioned previously. So the Mile High Flood District had requested that at our Cottonwood Creek crossing, we install our natural gas pipeline 10 feet deep. Our proposed design was at 6 feet deep. We are working with the Mile High District to develop a plan to install our pipeline at 10 feet deep. The Mile High Flood District in the future has a plan or has a potential plan to install a drop structure at Cottonwood Creek, which is how they came up with their recommendation of being 10 feet deep. The final condition, I believe, was the Tri-County Health Department. And we had been working with Tri-County Health Department, and I believe we did resolve any questions that came up during the referral process, mainly related to a hand washing station, which we were able to work through potential issues that we may have with this being a remote and away from facilities project. And at this time, I think that is all I have, and I will open it up or give it back to you, Kat.
Okay, I will read off the name of each commissioner to make sure you have a chance to ask any questions you wish of the applicant or any additional questions for the staff. Commissioner Brockelman.
Yes, I have one question, at least right now. This would be directed to Xcel. What is going to happen to the abandoned pipeline, the existing one?
Yes, that's a great question. So a portion of that pipeline will actually remain in service. It's going to be derated to a lower pressure that we can operate it at in order to continue serving the residents that are in that area. And then a portion of it will be abandoned in place with using nitrogen.
Okay. I guess so how much of it is going to be abandoned and how much of it being left in service if this is approximately the same length in the pipeline?
That is a good question. I do not have those numbers off the top of my head. Brian Thomason, I believe you're on the line. Do you happen to know those numbers?
And just a reminder to unmute yourself, you will need to press *6.
Hello, this is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Kelly, I don't have the exact number, but it's approximately 1/3 of the pipeline is going to be abandoned and the other 2/3 would remain in place.
Okay. And when we say abandoned, is it just going to be left in place or will it be extracted from the ground?
It will
in regards to abandonment, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kelly.
No, go ahead, Brian. You got it.
The abandonment will be nitrogen purged and left in the ground.
Okay. Right, and then the 2/3 goes to a lower pressure. So I guess, and when we say that with the lower pressure, says kind of under the little bit of assumption here that this original pipeline was not meeting regulations. How does it meet regulations then with it still 2/3 operational?
Yeah, so by operating it at a lower pressure, we are now compliant with federal regulations. Additionally, just to add to that, this the existing pipeline was previously an inline section was completed in 2017 to verify the integrity of the pipeline, and it is in good condition.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, we will now ask Commissioner Miller if he has any questions.
Yeah, actually, I want to get back to that section that's being abandoned. Is that going to be completely capped off and made separate from the line, or will it still be just valved off?
It'll be completely cut and capped off from the existing system.
Okay, and then I've got actually several questions here. So the folks that live just to the south and east of south and west of all this, they still use that area quite a bit, and there's trails that lead from the neighborhoods over into the park. You're going to be disrupting those trails. So is there a plan in place to keep those trails open so that the residents can still visit the park?
Yes, so during construction, we'll have detours so that people are able to continue to use those paths and get into the state park from there. Yeah.
Okay, and then we're on that above ground structure. You showed just piping comes above ground. I believe you said there's just one of those. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Where's it located on the map here?
I think it's in this area here that I'm highlighting on the PowerPoint screen shown, but I would ask Xcel to confirm.
I apologize. I'm not actually watching on the live stream. It is near the Vista Trail in South Peoria Street, essentially.
It's shown on page 5 of the proposed route of the Xcel Energy PowerPoint.
So I was mistaken. It's more north than what I was showing previously, but now on page 5, you can see it called out as a valve set location right here, located within the Cherry Creek State Park.
Hang on. All right, so one of the photos you showed shows a picture of the gas train or the gas line above ground. Might have been in the other presentation, the one by, yeah, that one there. Is that what we can expect to see?
So this is the picture on page 11 of my slide, Kelly, and it is representative of what you guys provided in your 1041 application. And you indicated that that's not exactly how it will look, but it is a representative type of a typical valve set and the screening. And I think he's just looking to confirm that it will be similar visually.
I guess what I'm looking at there too is that we're talking about, what I'm seeing there is a fence, and I'm also seeing the colors. And I'm thinking that these colors do not match with the surrounding area of the park and would stand out as a complete eyesore. Do you plan on painting that in a more neutral color and providing a fence that is more aesthetic? Because that corner right there gets traveled by a lot of folks.
Yes, absolutely. Adam, are you able to speak to the coloring of the valve set?
Kelly, this is Esma, if that's okay.
Yes.
For the color, we're actually going to be using neutral colors, but the valve has to be yellow due to the gas color. That's what we use for our standards. For the fence, we are willing to change the color.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Commissioner Saul, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess I had a question about that 50-foot by 50-foot area. I was wondering if there's any plans how to deal with the animal wildlife migration in that area with that fence if they get caught in there.
As far as the valves?
Just the animals, if they get in there, how do they, if there's a way for them to get out, or especially if you put barbed wire up there, what's going to happen?
That is a really good question, and I think we might have to get back to you on a plan regarding that.
Okay, thanks.
Is that all, Commissioner Saul, right now?
Yes, for right now.
Okay, Commissioner Suave, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. To proceed with our previous colleague's question, we received several comments in the last day or two from different citizen groups regarding protection plan for wildlife and so forth. And so I know that that was not commented on in the presentation. So I was wondering if you could take a few minutes to comment on what types of measures you're going to take. I understand there's some sort of protection plan that will be implemented. And then along with that, I see that one of your permitting consulting agencies is Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So if you could just kind of merge all that in and fill us in on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. So to reduce the potential impacts of prairie dogs, we've developed a project-specific prairie dog management plan in accordance with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and Cherry Creek State Park. Our construction plans will be have been developed to limit the extent of impacts to the prairie dog colonies. The project's prairie dog management plan includes temporarily relocating prairie dogs through a passive relocation method prior to the start of construction. Passive relocation is a non-lethal method of relocating prairie dogs. This method also includes placement of physical barriers to reduce potential interaction between prairie dogs and construction crews. We do anticipate that the prairie dogs will be able to repopulate this work area following construction and revegetation efforts.
Okay, thank you. And then I do have a second question, and this is regarding scheduling. I see that there've been, I know this is a multi-jurisdictional project, and I see that you've already got construction started where permits have been, or approvals in jurisdictions have already been granted, Aurora, Centennial, Denver, and Greenwood Village. Although unincorporated Arapahoe County has a large amount, has the majority of the pipeline in its jurisdiction, I just am wondering about how it is that you can start construction without having full approval of all jurisdictions, and what would happen if in the end, through our Board of County Commissioners, if your current plan wasn't approved, then you would already have started construction. So in other words, has the train left the station?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do, our two endpoints are actually relatively set. So the Arapahoe County portion is in the middle. So if for whatever reason we did need to relocate out, or change our alignment, we would have some potential options, but working from our endpoint has, I guess to answer your question, we could, there is some potential, I guess, for that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Your voice dropped for me, the last part of what you said.
Oh, sorry. The train has not left the station, essentially, is what I'm trying to get across.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all that I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Woolman, do you have any questions at this time?
I do. I noted that in the materials I read through that it was necessary for Xcel to get certain property rights from landowners who would be affected by the pipeline. Have you accomplished that? Are all of those agreements in place for easements?
Hello, this is Adam Pena. I'm the right-of-way and permits manager on the project, and the answer is yes, all agreements are in place for all properties with the exception of the Cherry Hills West Homeowners Association Common Ground. We do have, when we abandon that line in place and we reduce the pressure on the existing line, we have to do some tie-in work at that existing regulator station. And so I am still working with those folks to tie up that property right, but that is the sole property right that we are working on today.
I know it's hard to estimate this, but do you have an anticipated timeline as to when that will be accomplished?
I am hoping to have that accomplished in October, early October if possible.
Okay. One other question as well. What is the average life of a gas pipeline?
So currently our average life of a pipeline is, or average, is about 70 years for a pipeline. With improved construction techniques, there is a potential that it could last longer, but that is our current average.
So you're getting close to reaching that end of life for the major portion of this route, isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. One other question regarding just picking up where we left off as to the possibility of creating some kind of concealment area using plantings around that fence so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb where the valve set is. I mean, that's a pretty large area for the valve set. And just trying to lessen the eyesore nature of that, recognizing that, of course, you guys need to get over there to perform maintenance, but if just outside of your fence area, if you were thinking of creating some kind of natural buffer using grasses or low-growing shrubs or something of that nature.
At this point, we do not have any plans to do that. That's not something that's completely out of the realm. However, the Army Corps will have input into that as well, and also we'd like to discuss that with Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Can you make a note somewhere to please discuss that with them? Because the concerns that we've raised as commissioners do have to do with the fact that we want to preserve some kind of a pleasant buffer that people aren't looking as they're using that area directly on that site.
Yes, we can definitely explore that.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Woolman. Chair Pro Tem Latsis, do you have a question?
Hi, yes, I do have a question. So in your route alternatives analysis, can you give us a summary of how you selected this route? What was your logic in terms of ruling out the other 6?
Yes, absolutely. So we took a look, as I previously mentioned, we took a look at the existing infrastructure, so roads, railroads, overhead, underground utilities. We looked at construction logistics. Is there enough workspace for us? Potential traffic control, and then other underground utilities. We looked where schools, churches, residential, commercial, industrial, parks, open space are located. Looked at historical sites, areas of environmental concerns. We took a look at how our construction would impact road closures, how noise would impact residents. As previously mentioned, we do have that start and end location. So taking a look at our existing natural gas system, and then how we would install the pipe, how we can safely do that, and ensure that we're maintaining separation from other utilities. And I think maybe Brian Thomason, you can speak even better to that. So if you have something additional, feel free to add to.
This is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So Kelly hit everything dead on. Just a couple extra items. We really evaluated the existing route first. We were part of the original study that was done on the project. And when we looked at the existing route, people had built sheds, pools, playgrounds, and everything over the top of the gas line. So we didn't think that was a viable option to impact the residents of the area. We then started looking at traffic control going down roads. You can see by the blue and purple route that's shown on the screen. Then we just thought there was too much of a traffic impact with all the construction going on during the summer. We didn't want to impact the public as much as possible, or we tried to avoid impacting the public as much as possible. And then when we evaluated with the Corps of Engineers, with John McDonald, and then with EPG, and the involvement we have with the Corps, they were open to the ideal because they have existing water lines and other utilities going through the park. And since it's primarily an underground utility, it kept the construction out of the public access. So it was a minimal impact. And like Kelly said, the utilities was a big factor as well. And some of the controlling factors, we had to stay away from the dam. We worked with the Cherry Creek School District and discussed about, I think we had maybe 10 meetings and changed the alignment through there to satisfy their needs through the area. So that was the main decision making, was finding the least impact to the residents and the local people in the area. Kelly, back to you.
I think this is Adam, and I think one of the things to note that I think is important in this on this subject is that we did bounce a lot of these route ideas off of various jurisdictions, including Greenwood Village, Cherry Creek State Park, CDOT, RTD, and various other stakeholders along the route. And there were several revisions, as Brian mentioned, made based on the input from these various stakeholders. So this isn't just a route we chose. This is a route that was selected in part by other stakeholders that we worked with.
Great. Thank you for that level of detail. That's what I was looking for. And I would just like to, add on to what a couple of my colleagues have said. I do think it's been pretty standard when we hear either commercial cases or L&E cases that there is sufficient screening around, above ground utilities, whether it's related to, stormwater or water treatment or those sorts of things, to provide screening for the public so that it doesn't look like you plunked a utility in the middle of the park. So I would further reiterate that I think some screening, as long as Army Corps and Parks and Wildlife are on board with it, would be nice, particularly being close to a trailhead there.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Is that all for now, Catherine?
Yes, thank you.
Very good, thank you. I have a couple of questions. I guess I don't know if you addressed specifically what portion of the existing pipeline will remain operational, because in the paper submitted, it talked about some would be kept as and operate as distribution line, and where would that be?
So that would be the northern half of the existing pipeline. The northern 2/3 of the existing pipeline will remain in service as a distribution pipeline.
So this is Adam again, and just to help out with maybe a little bit of reference, a reference point for you, the intersection of Havana and Berry, the swimming pool, if you will, at the Cherry Creek Hills at Cherry Creek West HOA Common Ground, that would be the point of distribution. So we'd keep that section of line to that point as distribution pressure, and then the other section, which heads in a southeasterly direction all the way to Peoria Street from that point, would be abandoned in place.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is, you had a report on the reclamation plan, and I'm wondering who will be checking on the status of that reclamation. I understand it will take some time, but who is responsible for making sure it occurs according to what has been proposed?
Yeah, so Xcel will obviously be responsible, but we are also working with the Southeast Stormwater group, and I apologize, I'm blanking on the full name. Southeast Metro Stormwater Authority. Sorry, thank you. And then also working with Denver and Aurora, and then we'll also be working with Arapahoe County through our GESC plans for that restoration plan to make sure that we get what's required within that GESC permit.
Very good, thank you. And my final question right now is, would you please show where the proposed staging areas are?
So
yes,
I can pull up an email I received, pardon me. But I believe it's down in this area. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes.
Sorry, again, I can't see it.
The main staging area is going to be on the Amigo parcel, which is 60, the parcel in Centennial near the rake station, RSF 917.
And here it is shown on the screen now, highlighting the parcel 6300.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's the only staging area?
There are other staging areas outside of Arapahoe County.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay.
One thing, Chair, before you open up the public hearing, I do want to mention that I have received some inquiries prior to this meeting, but after you guys have received the email inquiries that I sent over, I want to let you know I did receive a phone call, or the planning department did receive a phone call from a resident. She did not leave. I left her a message, but I did not receive a response from her. She had some concerns about wildlife and prairie dogs. And then I have since received 2 emails, one from Ms. Klein and one from Nadie. And they had concerns, expressed concerns about alternative routes or relocating wildlife, as well as prairie dogs, owls, bald eagles, and mice, and waterway crossing. So I just want the planning commissioners to be aware that there were 3 additional inquiries that you have not received yet, but they will be included in the record.
Okay, thank you for that, Kat. Okay, this is a public hearing, and our moderator will call on individual telephone numbers to participate in the hearing. I also would like to acknowledge at this point that we did receive, I counted 28 different emails regarding prairie dogs and wildlife at the reservoir, and we have just been advised there are 3 additional ones, so that would bring to 31 emails, 28 which we have read and are part of the record. And I also would like to remind everybody this is a combined public hearing for both the 1041 and the location and extent. And I guess we will have the moderator now bring callers on the line. And if there are a lot of callers who wish to speak to the same issue, if it's possible to have one cover what you have on your mind. Otherwise, I guess we will give you 3 minutes apiece to participate. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We currently have about 23 callers on the line. However, I counted about 9 people who were part of the applicant's team. I will skip over the numbers who were speaking as part of the applicant's team, but I only managed to jot down about half of them, so I will end up calling some numbers who may not wish to speak. So I will start with the caller number whose last 4 digits ends in 7239. If you'd like to speak regarding this item, please press *6 to unmute yourself, state your name and location for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to comment. 7239, I am not seeing you unmuting yourself yet. We'll move on to the next caller. The next caller, last 4 digits end in 4408. And if you would like to speak regarding this item, please press *6 to unmute yourself. (4408) is opting not to unmute themselves. Next caller is 1019. You are currently unmuted, and if you'd care to comment, please say your name and location for the record.
Hi, thank you. This is Matt Kozlinski. I'm with the project team.
All right. Thank you, Matt. The next caller in line is last 4 digits 2146. Press *6 to unmute yourself if you would like to talk. And please state your name and location for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to comment.
Okay, very good. Tell me when.
All right. Go right ahead.
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Michelle Heinerman. I'm a homeowner, parks patron since 1999, board member, Prairie Protection, Colorado nonprofit. I am fiercely against this looking gas catastrophe. I find it disheartening that the well-being of select homeowners and businesses is being prioritized above the well-being of an entire community, human and wild. What I fail to understand is how in good conscience this pipeline can be planned. Can somebody quit typing? There's a lot of background noise. I mean, I'd like to continue with my speech here. What I find disheartening is, and what I'd like to know is how in good conscience this pipeline can be planned on a school campus as well as a state park cherished by an entire community. This pipeline is going to destroy a thriving biotic community that has taken decades to get to where it is today. How the applicant can possibly imagine that a bag of seeds is going to remedy this is beyond me. Prairie dogs are a keystone species, ecologically vital creatures who support 150 plus other species, whether as a food source and or nesting. In the Cherry Creek State Park, which again, I've been a patron of since 1999, red foxes, golden eagles, a variety of hawks, coyotes, packs of coyotes, varieties of owls, bald eagles, 2 of which I witnessed this morning perched in a designated staked out area for the pipeline and have pictures of, okay? I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise. Can you ever mute, please? Thank you, it's very inconsiderate. So furthermore, prairie dog, what I specifically want to talk about is the prairie dog management plan and the interconnected boroughs, but this background noise has me a bit discombobulated. So we all know this about prairie dogs, but what a lot of people don't know is that the prairie dogs have extremely complicated series of underground interconnected burrows and chambers. Burrow tunnel systems that channel rainwater into the water table, preventing runoff and erosion. I would like to know if the applicant has submitted documentation inclusive of this existing infrastructure. I've read through their flooding and soil analysis, yet I see no mention of the natural infrastructure. Why is that? How will the applicant restore and replicate these natural infrastructures? As an experienced prairie dog relocator with extensive experience also passively relocating prairie dogs, I would like to state for the record that the applicant's prairie dog management plan is the equivalent of driving cross-country in a car minus tires, yet expecting to get to your final destination. It is outrageous and absolutely ineffective. The only thing that plan will produce is death of these keystone species. Why? Prairie dogs retreat to the safety of their burrows during construction. Any noise, any vibrations, when humans
30
walk by-
seconds.
Okay, well, I would like to know if the applicant is willing to commit to working with licensed, experienced, ethical, non-lethal prairie dog relocation specialists, of which there are half a dozen in the Denver metropolitan area. I would like to ask if the applicant is willing to revise their prairie dog management plan, because again, it is absolutely ineffective and outrageous, and I vehemently oppose this pipeline. I would love for the Planning Commission to deny this permit. I think it's a sad day when we sacrifice children, nature, wildlife for the sake of traffic, select homes, and businesses. This would be a terrible
And that's 3
tragedy allowing
minutes.
this project to proceed. Yeah, okay. Well, I should have some time accredited back to me for all the background noise, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
Indeed, I did. I gave you an extra 30 seconds to account for background noise.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, the next caller has the last 4 digits of 9509. You may press *6 to unmute yourself if you would like to speak. (9509) is opting not to unmute themselves, so we'll move on to the next caller. Last 4 digits 9653. You may press *6 to unmute yourself. You have been unmuted, so please state your name and location for the record.
This is Vanessa Yohe. I'm with the project.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
The next caller is last 4 digits 9940.
This is
Yes.
Marie Alvarez. I'm part of the project team.
All right, thank you. The next 4 digits are part of the project team, so we will skip over 7325 and move on to last 4 digits of 1844. If you'd like, you may press *6 to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I can move on to the next caller. Next caller has last 4 digits of 6281. If you'd like to, you have been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Connie Bobka. I live in Thornton, Colorado. I am speaking tonight on the proposed Xcel Energy pipeline project slated to be run through Cherry Creek Park and conservation area, as well as other parts of other cities. This is a home of more than 200 different species of animals, to include a great number of prairie dogs, a keystone species that provides food and home to many animals, such as bald eagles, hawks, coyotes, foxes, burrowing owls, etc. As a former teacher, I'm beginning to wonder whether anything has been learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, with destruction at every turn. It seems there has not been a change of heart or a change of mind regarding the value of life. It's simply business as usual. There is no gratitude for life in Colorado, period, whether it be human or that of wildlife. All decisions, especially poor ones, have a great impact on every kind of living being. The killing of wildlife, especially prairie dogs, in Colorado is happening at an alarming rate and continues. What will it take for decision makers to see that poor decisions prove to be catastrophic, ignoring the cries of people for change in this state and the cries of our wildlife that are ruthlessly being killed, and their cries are being ignored because they want to live? They're considered a nuisance. They're considered to be in the way of progress. They're simply in the way. At the rate the prairie dog is being killed, it is certain that the other species will die with them. And in the near future, Colorado will not have wildlife to enjoy. We balk at the oil and gas industry for the supposed dangers that pose to people's health and well-being, and in the state implementing unreasonable guidelines to follow. But the pipeline project is not even acknowledged for its possible dangers, the possible dangers it poses, period. Cherry Creek Park is heavily visited and enjoyed. Having a pipeline running through it, destroying its beauty, its wildlife, and posing possible chemical air pollutants, more of them, getting into waterways, and possible explosions. None of this has even been addressed at this point that I'm aware of. Your decision for the pipeline project is crucial for the well-being of people and that of our wildlife. You must consider how ill-timed this project is and ill-placed. Why does it have to be in a park? Why can't it be somewhere else? It will also impact tourism dollars as Colorado kills prairie dogs. And this has an impact on everyone. Make a decision. Make sure that you look at animals and wildlife as a gift. Make sure that your decisions promote life and well-being. We are the voice of the wildlife. We are their only voice. Be a good decision maker. Do what's right for the people. You make beautiful decisions, beautiful things will come. Make 2020 the turning point for Colorado in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was exactly 3 minutes. So thank you.
Woo! That was good.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. The next caller in line is part of the project team. So we'll skip over extension 2554. The next caller in line is last 4 digits 8940, and you may press *6 to unmute yourself if you would care to. 8940 has opted not to unmute themselves. The next caller has the last 4 digits of 9933. You may unmute yourself if you wish, or I will move on to the next caller. You have been unmuted. Caller with the last 4 digits 9933, would you care to speak regarding this item?
This is John McDonald. I'm part of the project team with EPG. Thanks.
All right, thank you. The next caller is part of the project team as well. I will skip over 0191 and move on to last 4 digits of 1691.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. All right, my name is Deanna Meyer, and I'm the Executive Director of Prairie Protection Colorado. I'm voicing my concerns about running a pipeline through Cherry Creek State Park in the only habitat conservation area that is left for prairie dogs and the communities they support in this park. I have submitted comment and hope that you have all read my concerns regarding the application criteria. Our organization has reviewed the relocation plan for the prairie dogs in the park should the pipeline destroy over 3 miles of their habitat, and the plan will not move the prairie dogs out of the way. It will kill the prairie dogs. They will not move out of fenced-in areas through the holes. They will not move out as newspapers are shoved in their burrows. They will not move out by leveling their burrows, by harassing them, or by erecting silt fences. The prairie dogs and all of the other wildlife dependent on their burrows for shelter will be killed by the grading and destroying of their homes as a wide area of habitat is trenched in for a pipeline. Relocations take experience and time, and we are asking that, at the very least, you require Xcel to hire a relocation expert and follow their techniques in a way that accomplishes the main goal of safely and viably moving them out of the way. Our organization has several recommendations for this job and would urge you to hire one of these people who has success and experience with relocations and who also don't kill the species for profit. Researching this plan that proposes to put a gas pipeline in one of the only protected wildlife habitat zones in the county of Aurora is egregious, and the fact that most of the planning department is willing to rubber stamp it, despite the fact that most of the approval criteria are clearly not being met, should trouble each and every person in this meeting. Building a pipeline that destroys land, soil, aquifers, wildlife, and has the potential of a catastrophic explosion in place of prairie habitat, wetlands, parklands, and one of the only protected wildlife habitat areas which is set aside for the recreational enjoyment of Colorado citizens is heartbreaking. We are asking all of you to seriously consider the criteria and to uphold your positions and protect the wildlife and the people of Arapahoe County and Colorado by ensuring that this park is kept as wildlife habitat and that a gas pipeline not be allowed to replace cherished parkland and biotic communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next caller has the last four digits of 8036. You may press *6 to unmute yourself if you wish. *8036 remains muted. I'll move on to the next caller, who has the last four digits of 5022. You have been unmuted.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Nidhi and I live in unincorporated Arapahoe County. And I too, like everybody else that's spoken here, have a lot of concerns about destroying the habitat of prairie dogs. It seems like we have not learned any lessons from environmental destruction and the fact that we let corporations destroy areas like state parks and habitats for wild animals is just honestly really sad. It seems like we're prioritizing convenience based on the other routes, that potential routes that we saw over preservation of the environment, which in the long term not only just hurts a lot of species but will hurt us. We have seen it in various parts of our country and all over the world, and we should really reevaluate our choices. So it seems like it's been, recommended here to hire at least a relocation expert with the prairie dogs, and because it's a keystone species that so many other species depend on, it's the very least that a corporation with as much money as Xcel does have can do to if they really want to do this in good faith and want to have any interest in preserving wildlife species. Otherwise, it's just corporations moving forward at the expense of everybody else that doesn't have a voice. So I really hope that all the committee members will evaluate this and just expect the bare minimum of hiring a relocation expert on the subject to evaluate our options rather than just going ahead and murdering a whole family of species that resides in the state park. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next caller has the last four digits of 7561. If you'd like to press *6 to unmute yourself, you may. Seeing no unmuting, we can move on to the next caller, who has the last four phone number digits of 5430. If you'd like, you have been unmuted.
Hey, this is Reese Nelson with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers out of Omaha District Office. No comment, just listening in.
All right, thank you very much. The next caller has the last 4 digits of 7387. If you'd like to press *6 to unmute yourself, you may, or we can move on to the next caller. Next caller has the last 4 digits of 5210. And you are not muted.
Hello, this is Matt Anderson. I'm part of the project team.
All right, thank you. Next caller has a last 4 digits of 2069. You may press *6 to unmute yourself or identify yourself as a member of the project team if you'd like. (2069) remains muted. We do have one caller who likely has blocked caller ID. If you are calling from an unidentified phone number or have otherwise blocked your caller ID, you can use *6 to unmute yourself. On my screen, the last 4 digits of your number are 6687, but it's not giving me other information. And I'm not seeing any movement towards unmuting. That concludes our list of callers. And
is there anybody there?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you.
My name is, oh.
Go ahead,
please. Is there
please.
somebody else on the line?
Is there another
Okay,
caller?
My name is Ray Cruz Solano. I live at 5552 South Lansing Court. I've lived in this area for 25 years, and I'm primarily concerned about the safety of this project. I need to know some answers about how deep you're planning on burying this pipeline. And I see that it's probably going to be at the intersection of Orchard and Peoria there, and I've seen some construction already going on there, so it seems like they've already started the project without getting a final approval. So I'd like to have a couple of answers to those few questions that I have there before I go in.
We'll take your testimony, and the applicant can respond after we've taken all telephone testimony.
That's it?
Yes, so if those were your only questions about the project, we can have the applicant respond to those.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Is that the end of the calls?
Yes, there are no further callers.
Okay, we will then invite the applicant and the staff to respond to the questions or comments that were heard from during the public hearing. And we will now close the public hearing as there are no further callers.
Hello, Chair. This is Kat Hammer speaking with Referral County Planning Division. A number of the comments that we heard today during the public testimony do relate to prairie dog and wildlife. I do not feel that staff had any specific questions directed towards them, so I will ask the applicant and their team to address some of the specific questions that we heard and respond to the concerns of the citizens.
This is Kelly Bradley with Xcel Energy. I think one of the main questions that we heard was committing to a prairie dog relocation expert, and I believe that we should be able to commit to that request. I think I will pass it off to Matt Kaczynski with the project team if you have any other items you'd like to address with prairie dogs. Other questions that came up. And you have to hit *6 as well, I believe.
And I am no longer muted. Hello, this is Matt Kislinski, consultant for the project. And regarding the Prairie Dog relocation plan, I thank you for your comments. And it should be noted that was an earlier draft of the plan. It has since been revised. The project has been committed all along to passive relocation. When we started meeting with CPW over a year and a half ago, the project has never considered anything other than passive relocation for the project. The plan was drafted and submitted. It has since been revised to include nothing but passive relocation. As far as we know, that we are planning on, well, the plan was to only implement RDT methods that have been used previously. There was never any lethal control plan. The project now will commit to using a prairie dog relocation expert to implement these methods to minimize impacts to the prairie dogs. As Kelly mentioned earlier, the project there's no intent to continue prairie dog relocation or exclusion from the project or from the construction area once project is complete. It's going to be a temporary removal, however it's done, and or whoever does it, and prairie dogs will be able to move back into the area. It also should be noted that the pipeline corridor largely follows on the north-south running side of Peoria. It follows the edge, literally the edge of the park as it runs up against Peoria. There is ample habitat beyond the proposed construction corridor for prairie dogs for prairie dogs to move to. It's not like we're impacting the only habitat available to them. There is other habitat around. So I guess for prairie dogs, that's all I'll say for that. There were some other questions specific to or generally about other wildlife species. There were several mentioned, and I don't know which ones the county would wish to hear more about specifically, but we do have that information available if more is requested.
This is Chair Rick. I believe there was a question from Mr. Cruz Solano about how deep the pipeline would be.
Yes, I can answer that question. So we do average about 4 feet in depth throughout the park. In some areas it is deeper due to other utilities or wetland crossings. And also to answer the other question about construction beginning, we have begun some construction in areas where we are already permitted.
Chair Rick, I would like the Xcel project team to address his question about safety, which I think was his dominant concern.
Good point, Commissioner Woolman. Will the Xcel team please address the safety issue?
Yes, absolutely. So as mentioned in my presentation, safety is the foundation of all we do. During construction, we will verify the integrity of the natural gas pipeline through X-ray of all welds by an independent third-party contractor. During construction, we also will implement a corrosion prevention system designed to eliminate metal loss during the life of the natural gas pipeline. Once the natural gas pipeline has been installed, we will pressure test the pipeline using water to verify the pipeline's integrity prior to putting it into service. The pressure testing will be completed at 1.5 times the MAOP. Once the pipeline is in service, we will complete an internal inspection of the natural gas pipeline using a pigging tool. That's what we call it. And this pigging tool is sent through the pipeline to detect any defects of the pipeline. This pigging will occur once every 7 years to ensure to maintain the integrity of the pipeline throughout its life. Additionally, once the pipeline is in service, we do annual leak surveys. We are continuously monitoring the system 24/7 and will be installing a remote control valve in case of an emergency, and that can be shut off remotely from our 24/7 gas control center. And I think that's kind of the gist of what was discussed earlier. So any additional questions, I'm happy to answer on safety as well.
Can I ask another question?
I think we have already closed the public hearing. Is this Mr. Cruz Solano?
It is. My concern on the safety is predominantly if something ever happened to cause a catastrophic event to occur. It sounds to me like you've only got one shutoff to shut off a section of it. Is there any way that you could install multiple shutoffs to prevent it from just running right down the line?
So throughout the natural gas system, we do have other valves in case of an emergency. We are installing one valve along the pipeline to help with that. The one valve is just brought up because of it's being installed in the area. But there are other valves systematically placed throughout the system in the event of an emergency.
Are there any other additional questions that weren't answered from the public? I don't believe so. So I will repeat that the public hearings are closed and we are going to bring these items to the Planning Commission for a motion and discussion. Are there any additional questions before I call for the motion on the location and extent or the 1041?
Yeah,
Chair.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Brockelman.
Yes.
I have two questions. In this last little piece, I've heard some conflicting information here. When I asked the first questions of how deep this was, it was stated that it was 10 foot. I just now heard that it would be 4 foot and varying throughout the park. So what is the real depth of this pipeline?
Sorry, I can clarify that. I would say on average, it's around 4 feet. Through the Cottonwood Creek crossing, we will be at 10 feet deep, and that is to avoid conflicts with the future drop structure that Mile High Flood District is intending to install. There are a few other utilities that we may potentially need to go under, in which case we may be a little bit deeper than 4 feet, but for the most part, we'll be 4 feet throughout the park.
But your minimum depth is 4 feet.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. Then on the pressure test, how long is that pressure test held? Is it 24 hours?
It will be.
48? Go ahead.
Esna, can you speak to that a little bit more in detail? If you're on mute.
*6 will unmute you.
*6.
I apologize for that. It will be an 8-hour pressure test.
8-hour pressure test?
That is correct.
Okay, at 1.5 times the normal pressure,
pressure of the
pressure, correct?
Correct. So the line will be running at 285, so we'll be at 1.5. That's what it is designed for.
Okay. Is the high pressure of this new proposed line the same pressure as what the current line is and what it's running at?
Yeah, it'll be it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockman. Are there any other additional questions for the Planning Commission at this time?
Yes, Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Latsis. I had a couple of questions.
Please.
Thank you. So previously, when you were answering my question about the routes, you mentioned there are other utilities that run, I'm guessing, roughly in this same vicinity in the Cherry Creek State Park. Can you elaborate on what's there? Because it also sounds like you may be having to avoid some based on depth changes and so on. So are there other utilities in that space?
Yeah, Brian, is that something you can speak to?
Yes, this is Brian Thomas with MV5. I'll give you a specific location just northwest of the proposed valve set that you identified. We have two water lines that we're going to be crossing that are owned by, I believe, Aurora. I apologize if I got the wrong place, but they're a little deeper. And in order to get the proper cover, we need to go below those in order to, so we're probably going to be close to 10 feet deep in those areas, and that's approximate number. But it's located just northwest of the valve set where Peoria intersects with the diagonal to Bellevue. And we'll be crossing them at that location. Throughout the rest of it, they're mostly telephone, communication lines that we'll be crossing, and they're typically at a 3-foot depth. So we usually try to maintain anywhere from 1.5 to 2 foot clearance on those utilities, which would get us a little deeper in those particular areas.
Thank you. And a follow on. So is there any particular utility easement in that area of the park where all these things run, or is it just based on individual permissions from Army Corps?
Those existing utilities for the water lines, they have easements adjacent to the Peoria, but we don't know the details of their agreements with the park.
Okay. And then I had another question back to the prairie dogs. So in studying your preferred route, do you have any idea how many colonies will be impacted by your construction area and the path of this pipeline?
Matt Kaczynski, is that something you can answer?
Sure. We mapped the active colonies. I'm pulling up a figure right now. It's approximately 2 miles of the length within the park. There are several colonies, some of them smaller, some of them larger. The park does a prairie dog. The park has a prairie dog management plan. They revised it last year, 2019. And they surveyed all the prairie dog colonies with ones that are crossed by the project, but also further into the interior of the park. And I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but those surveys of the done by CPW do have estimates of the prairie dog colony population estimates. Those change, those vary year to year. So at any construction of the project, presuming it will start sometime later this year, will continue into next year, and it's impossible to estimate exactly the number of colonies per se or prairie dogs that could be affected, but we know it's somewhere in the vicinity of around 2 miles of the proposed route through the park.
Okay, I was just wondering, order of magnitude, how big of relocation are you looking at with the prairie dogs? Is it, I mean, is it huge, or are all of the 2 miles running through that habitat, and you've got, 30 colonies, 40 colonies?
No, again, I apologize. I don't have those numbers off the tip of my tongue, but it's several colonies. They're large they're larger colonies. It's not
Sure.
The project impact wouldn't. I don't know. The project wouldn't impact the entirety of a colony if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of the scale, of the impacts, environmentally on the prairie dogs.
I do recall from the plan there are approximately 460 something acres in the last survey of active prairie dog colonies within the park. So in the grand relative to the entirety of the park, we could certainly figure out what that proportion is, but versus the entirety of active prairie dog colonies within the park, we could provide those numbers with a little bit of math.
Sure, thank you. And I had one more question regarding safety, and then I promised, Chair, that I will stop. So in a previous slide, you'd mentioned that you have well over 2,000 miles of pipeline that you manage in Colorado. So, and I think maybe this would be useful to know, what are the security or safety metrics that you have on the management of that? Like how many number of instances do you have? And, is it, I imagine since you're a leader in safety that you've got some pretty good numbers to share on your active pipelines and how you manage them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have any numbers at this moment, but that is something that we could provide.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful for adjacent property owners just to know, that you've got a pretty good safety program in place. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any additional questions from the Planning Commission before we proceed to a motion?
Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Brockelman. I do have one last question. What is the width of disturbance of this? So basically silt fence to silt fence?
Brian, is that something that you can speak to?
Yes. A typical average width through here is 50 foot. In some areas, we have a couple additional because of the construction, like around the valve set. We need a little extra room to make sure all the drainage and everything maintains consistent. But typically across the length of the pipeline, we have a 50 foot, but then we also have a 25 foot temporary that allows the contractor more room. However, the contractor is instructed to minimize the surface impact along the length of the project, keep his footprint to the minimum.
So you have the potential of an 85 foot width then?
75 would be the maximum width.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockelman. Any final questions from the Planning Commission?
Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Miller. Hey, just for reference, how deep is the current pipeline?
This is Brian with NV5. The current pipeline is running approximately 4 foot deep, in some cases 5, very similar as to our proposed construction along the route. However, some of the utilities came in after Xcel's line was in place, because Xcel was there before, so they would have constructed around the Xcel Energy line.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller.
I have one more question.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Wallman. Is it industry standard for Xcel Energy to bury its pipelines approximately 4 feet and deeper in those areas where they're crossing other utilities?
Yes, that is very standard for Xcel.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions at this time? Hearing none,
I'm still there. I would like to ask one more.
please. Who's that?
This is Ray Crusolano again, about the safety issue.
Ray, I'm sorry, we have closed the public hearing at this point.
Yes, if you have specific questions, Mr. Cristalano, you may contact Kat Hammer, the planner on the case, and she'll be able to connect you with Xcel for technical questions.
I will now accept a motion regarding the proposed location and extent for the proposed pipeline.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Wallman. I'd like to present a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Mollman. The motion is made by Commissioner Mollman.
In the case of LE 20-001 Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project Location and Extent Application, I have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation, and any public comment is presented at the hearing, and hereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report. Subject to the following conditions, I am adding 2 additional conditions onto the 5 that are present right now in the draft motion. Condition 6 will read, Xcel will employ the services of a prairie dog relocation expert to relocate the prairie dogs. And condition 7 is Xcel will provide safety information to the county as indicated during our questioning.
Thank you, Commissioner Woolman has made a motion for approval with addition of 2 conditions, 6 and 7, in addition to the 5 listed. Do we have a second for the motion?
Commissioner Brockelman seconds.
Commissioner Brockelman has seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, this is Commissioner Miller. I just want to say that Xcel Energy has promised a lot of information to be passed along before final approval by the commissioners. So I just want to make certain that there's a lot more than just the 7 that were posted.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller.
And this is Commissioner Latsis. I would like to propose maybe amending this to add a number 8 regarding screening around the valve site fencing.
Yeah.
With landscaping.
Landscaping screening around the valve set above ground. Okay.
And I would second that motion. This is Commissioner Wallman as an addition, condition 8.
Okay. Commissioner Woolman has made the motion, which was seconded by Commissioner Brockelman with additions by Commissioner Latsis, which have been accepted by Commissioner Woolman. So I think we can proceed and ask if there are any other further discussion. Otherwise, Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Certainly. I have a question for the attorney. I believe we have an amendment to the main motion made by Commissioner Latsis and seconded by Commissioner Woolman to require landscape screening around the valve set, and whether that should be handled as a separate motion before we return to the main motion.
Yes, we do need to handle that as a separate motion. Vote on the amendment to the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Commissioner Woolman and seconded by Commissioner Brockman to accept the original 5 conditions. And I guess we have to vote on that one at this first, correct?
No, we would vote on the amendment that Latsis proposed and Woolman seconded, which was an amendment to the main motion to add landscaping and screening around the valve set.
Okay.
And I'm
in addition to the other 2 commissions.
Then we need to call the roll on Commissioner Latsis' conditions.
On the amendment. Yes, so this is a vote on the proposed amendment by Commissioner Latsis to add landscaping and screening around the valve set. And I will call the roll, starting with Commissioner Brockelman.
She also wanted relocation of the prairie dogs.
That was part of the main motion, if I recall correctly.
That's correct.
So this is an amendment just addressing landscaping and screen fencing around the valve set. I will start with Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Aye.
Commissioner Save.
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The amendment regarding landscaping and screening around the valve set passes 7-0. We may now return to the main motion, which Commissioner Woolman made, seconded by Brockelman, with 2 additional conditions. 1, that Xcel will employ the services of a prairie dog expert to relocate the colonies. And 2, that Xcel will provide safety information prior to final approval to Arapahoe County.
Pardon me, Attorney Hill here, just for clarification. At this point, we are voting on approval with 8 conditions of approval as we've discussed, including the 3 additional conditions of approval added through this amendment process.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. If everyone is clear on that, we are voting on the main motion as amended. I can call the roll.
Please proceed.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Nay.
Commissioner Save.
Nay.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The motion as amended passes on a vote of 5-2 for the location and extent.
Okay, I will now accept a motion regarding the proposed 1041 application. Anybody?
Yep, Chair Rick, this is Commissioner Latsis.
Thank you,
I'd like to
Catherine.
make a motion. So in the case of SI 20-001, Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project 1041 permit application, I reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment as presented at the hearing, and hereby move to recommend approval of this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the conditions 1 through 4.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Latsis. Do we have a second?
I will second that motion. This is Commissioner Woolman.
Commissioner Woolman has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Otherwise, we'll ask Mr. Reynolds to please call the roll.
Certainly. Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Nay.
Commissioner Save.
Nay.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The motion on the 1041 application passes on a vote of 5-2.
Okay, we have now concluded our public hearing items, and our next meeting is scheduled for October 6th. Are there any other staff announcements?
This is Jason Reynolds. I just wanted to thank Terry Malik for attending this meeting with me in the Arapahoe room at Lima Plaza. I was showing her how to work the levers on Microsoft Teams. So thank you, Terry, for being here.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, I guess it is 8:30 or so, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ending the live stream.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
So.